is the head of $20 billion real estate investment firm, an early investor in data centers, and now doubling down on New York City real estate. Joining us is Thor Equities chairman and CEO, Joe Sitt. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Good to have you. So last time you were sitting here, first of all, it's been too long, was February 2024. I was just looking it up, and you were defending data centers. Jim Chanos had this big short call on data centers, and you were pounding the table here about why it's good to invest. Turns out you had the right call.
Yeah, sometimes better maybe to be lucky and smart, not just smart. And I think I was also lucky. I guess the need for capital to invest in the data center business sort of forced me to pick a horse to give up. And back then it was office space and migrate out of that office to data centers. But it was a painful time. You know, we started in the space about 7.5, 8 years ago. And for, call it 6 of the last 8 years or 7 of the last 8 years, mostly been on the defense, trying to explain to people that all that knowledge that we're obtaining as humans and savings, it's going to need a place to store, and the new technologies that are going to move faster. And back then, nobody heard of the word AI. We were trying to describe it from a different form from a friend of mine who Jack Hittery at Sandbox, and trying to explain to people how new metrics and technologies we're going to need for that. So now the world has come, now AI has come, and now nobody wants to touch an office building.
And so what, you're pivoting to office away from data centers?
Yeah, no, I'm not away from data centers, a little less in the data center fields. We're still active. We have projects in Texas, Ohio, Georgia, throughout the major potential power markets in the United States, and very active in Europe. We actually started our first data center project was in Madrid about 8 years ago. But in terms of why we like office, whole host of reasons. Well, first of all, AI. We believe that you can't look at the world as everything even. And we believe there's markets that are going to winners and losers. And the difference between the two is markets that have the disruptors, not just the disruptees. And best example I'd use is New York, San Francisco, Austin. The voracious need for space is incredible. So that's one. 2, I'm actually bullish about so many of the kids losing their jobs. The folks that are software designers, engineers, they're some of the brightest talent out there. And I never forget, years ago, not on this channel, but Mike Bloomberg was a friend, old Mayor Mike. And I asked him about his life's journey. And he said, I lost my job. I knew I had an engineering background. I knew my parents told me that education will pay off someday, some way. And I started the Bloomberg Terminal, coming out of a totally different field. So I'm bullish about reinvention, and I'll talk about that and what's called Javron's paradox. And then I'd say number 3 is the residential. What does that mean? It became a curse word to develop residential real estate in America. You were evil. People said it's only for the rich. They didn't do the math and realize that if you threw more housing at a market, whether it's for rich or otherwise, that then creates supply, reduces the amount of pricing then on the other side. And all of a sudden now, late in the game, all of a sudden government says, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't have stopped all those residential developments. Maybe they're not evil developers. And so they created this incredible tax for 35 years. You pay no taxes on your building if you convert it into residential. So the extreme opposite extreme. And so the third occupier competing for space today is those conversions to residential. Yeah. So I actually see it the exact opposite of everybody else. I think that within the next 6 months to a year, you're going to hear people talking about New York City, like, where do I get space? I can't get a proper location. Particularly because
even with
of the tightness.
This mayor?
Listen, that's a challenge. I'm hoping he learns from the mistakes that the UK and London made. London and the UK probably even today about to make the same mistake. They had that trust moment, as they call it, with the spending. Again, whether it's Labour Party or the Green Party extremists, either way, even the mayor of Manchester, he's got the same vision, which is to tax. And you tax and you spend, number one, your bonds are going to back up. People aren't going to want to buy them. And then you get pushback. I don't know if you saw it, but this morning or last night, Jamie Dimon said, you raise those taxes, we're supposed to spend billions, we're canceling the project. And the dynamic of that project compared to Ken Griffith's is the magnitude is so much more. And so we got to hope that this mayor who got elected a little bit by a fluke, he's extremely bright, but as I call it, he's got the paradox. What do I mean? He got elected, in my opinion, because of spoiled kids. I say that this generation, unlike the generations past, always wanted civil service, always wanted to give back. This generation of young kids, hopefully they mature over time, they're more takers. And now the goal for him is he's a smart guy, great marketeer. If I was him, I would not be talking about firing 10,000 cops. I would not be pissing off the Asian community, talking about raising property taxes because they're big property investors. I would not be talking about negative business things. What I would do is what Al Sharpton, who happens to be a friend of mine for many decades, told me a long time ago he did. He said, Joe, I said, oh, son, I saw him cleaned up, no more tracksuit, suit and tie. And he gave the same advice, I think, recently to Mamdani. He says, you got elected by the kids, but now it's time for you to be the adult in the room. And he's a really smart guy, and if he can sense that wind and realize it'll better his career and better the city of New York, I'm still hopeful that he gets that wake-up call and steps up in that way before it's too late, so to speak.
But yours is a long-term bet, the whole New York office,
yes,
residential.
But it's even short-term. On the longer-term side, I would say from a different perspective, I like it. I'm a believer that sometimes from technological challenges comes opportunities. You go back to 1760, they invented the new version of the steam engine. It was considered the greatest invention because you were going to use 10 or 20% of the coal that you used before. They said you're not going to need coal, industries were going to go out of business. What ended up happening? You see the railroad industry blew up because all of a sudden coal and efficiency. All of a sudden steamliners run by coal and efficiency. All of a sudden America had an iron smelting industry, came from nowhere. So I constantly see it. Sewing machine, people wearing more clothes, internet.
It's just interesting that you think that's going to manifest in more office, because a lot of people think it's going to mean less office time.
My opinion is that the kids, so to speak, and the engineers and all those folks that lived through COVID, I don't think people want to sit home in pajamas anymore. And what I think is they're going to want to be in workplaces, whether it's co-working or otherwise. Like one of the spaces we do some stuff is in the co-working and in the membership club space. And what am I seeing? People that just lost their job, they're getting good severance pay for a year, et cetera. And so they got a year of runway. And the last thing that they have that everyone's underestimating is AI as their weapon. You could start a business that if you wanted to be able to create something great, you'd need hundreds of employees and a payroll for hundreds of employees. You could do it literally today with 2 employees. And so that's incentivizing so much entrepreneurship.
Well, we love hearing your contrarian views, Joe. Thank you for coming by. Appreciate it.